Okay. Hi, guys. Everybody wants to know that is my bottle of pain thing. So if you guys want to know what the frick I'm doing, I'm actually wiping off my screen because it's kind of dusty. Okay, so it's time for another statue video. Woohoo! Just love making these videos. I like to promote dialogue because how the fuck are we going to get anything done if we don't have dialogue? So I saw this on Facebook and I was like, really? Oh, it makes me so glad I'm not a Brown graduate. Because if I was a Brown graduate, I'd probably burn my diploma. Just, oh, oh, man. Okay. So I had made it a goal to talk at least one thing a month about Rome. I'm about to break that rule because this is I have one video that I'm actually uploading later on this month, and I forgot what it's about. Um, but anyways, so in today's video, we're going to talk um, about Brown University, and Brown University has a very famous a member of their a former student, and that was Emma Watson, who went to Brown University, used her money. I do believe she only got in because she was in Hollywood, but she was a very studious student. Um, so yes, her celebrity status did get her into Brown, but also I do believe her grades and all that also played a hand in her getting in. So we're going to jump to the assumption that Emma Watson does have a couple brain cells in her head, and they're actually brimming with intelligence and all that. So unlike her co-stars who did not complete school, so yeah. I guess Emma Watson came to the stark conclusion that most people should, that education is important. So we do congratulate all people that have gone to college and have bettered their lives. So it's also good to have a fallback career just in case your main one goes south. So Brown University has two statues in their I don't know why they put one near the slavery section. I don't get it. But I'll read this lovely article to show you how elitist Brown University students actually are. And they actually think that common poor people give a shit. So here it is. Okay. This is from the Providence Journal. Poor, poor, poor Augustus Caesar. He has no arm. In the posting on the Bologan, a group of 6 students said the statues. Okay, so hold on. Let me just go back up here. Okay, good, because I was about ready to erase an entire amount of content. Okay. Some Brown students want white supremacist statues of ancient Roman emperors removed from campus. Yay, it's going to be one of those little statue videos. During the time of Augustus, all roads led to Rome, but some students at Brown University say no paths today should lead to 2 statues of Romans whose imperial legacy they say symbolizes white supremacy. Okay. Okay. Let's just stop right there for a moment and just put this in context. Okay. White supremacy was not a thing back then. It wasn't. In fact, a vast majority of the people that were enslaved by the Romans happened to be white. Apparently, they do not teach that at Brown University. There was also slaves from Ethiopia and from Egypt and from Greece. In fact, Greeks who happened to be white who had an education, or they were tutors of the elite prior to becoming enslaved. They ended up becoming tutors for the elite. So they basically continued the same job they had. And they were treated very well and very nicely, because by virtue of their tribe or their group, there was no such thing as oh, I'm enslaving you because of the color of your skin, or I'm superior to you because of the color of your skin, or the color of my skin compared to yours. So no. There was no concept of white supremacy. There was a concept that you were the Roman or you were not. If you were not Roman, you were a barbarian. If you were Roman, you were civilized. So, yeah. Apparently they do not teach that in Brown University. They should. In fact, it should be mandatory. Learn some fucking history. I know I'm probably going to get striked, but I don't really give a shit. The statue is one of Caesar Augustus, whose empire lasted 1,500 years, and the other of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, are at the heart of a debate about art and history that is rolling the Brown campus. Okay. If you feel triggered by statues of Roman emperors who never promoted white supremacy, you really do need to go to your little safe space closet and stay there for the next 500 years. Because yeah, the world ain't going to change. There's comedians that actually say the world does not revolve around you, and it is not about you. Right. While the college and universities have targeted statues of Confederate generals, a student group called Decolonization at Brown wants to replace replicas of statues that date back to the Roman Empire. Instead, they want to install works by Black and genuine artists or Native artists. All right. I'm going to make this very clear. I adore Black artists. I think they're great. I think that they have loads of talent. I think that artists that are Native American who have exceptional amount of talent should have their artwork displayed. Point blank. Why? Because they have talent, not the color of their skin, but the content of their talent. But I also understand why people would want more works of art from Black and Native people. So I'm going to make this very clear, okay? I can't stand white supremacy. And this is why I'm not a heathen. Because it doesn't matter how much heathens try to distance themselves from white supremacists and from neo-Nazi skinheads and all this other bullshit. They will always be connected to it. Always. But I do admire people that continue the fight. I do. The problem that I have with it is they want to turn this into a race issue, which is not. It is a bunch of dumb, privileged assholes at Brown University that is upset that so-called white Roman emperors have statues in their university, which is only two. It's two. They're trying to put a word, a concept, white supremacy, onto statues of people that never promoted white supremacy in their entire life. There was no concept of white supremacy in fucking Rome. Also, are you ignored that white people were enslaved by Romans? I mean, if you want to believe that everybody in Rome was a fucking white supremacist, let's ignore the fact is that white people were enslaved by Romans. Let's ignore the fact is that they enslaved the Celts. They enslaved the Germanic people. Let's ignore that. Because if we ignore it, we can paint the entire empire as an empire of white supremacists who, So we'll just ignore there were white slaves and that there were Germanic slaves and all this stuff because it makes us feel better about ourselves. Fuck you. Point blank. Okay. All right. It says here, in a post on Blogger, a group of 6 students said the statues were brought to our campus with the goals of upholding ideals of the perfect white form, white civilization, white supremacy, and colonialism, ideas that we believe are incompatible with Brown today. This is not just about monuments students wrote, it's about the kinds of people and histories that students at Brown today are taught to idealize. All right. All right. The replacement of these statues not only removes images that honor Brown's history of violence, institutional racism, and settler colonization, but also forces us to confront legacies of imperialism that continue to shape our education. And guess what, assholes? It will still continue to shape your education. It will. Getting rid of statues isn't going to change how you're taught. It isn't. No. So, where does this come from? The idea of removing statues, the idea of tearing down statues, the idea of burning statues, or whatever you want to call it. This goes all the way back to the 400s, the 500s, all those lovely centuries, when a group of people decided to come out and say, guess what? We're going to tear all this stuff down. We're going to try to erase the past, because statues do not have power. So this is the problem I have with people putting power in statues and images. Okay, this is superstitious bullshit. Okay, point blank. I don't care if YouTube strikes me and says this is inappropriate. No, fuck you, YouTube. I'm making a point here. When you put power in images, when you believe images have some type of power over you, you want to get rid of it because you want to get rid of that power that you have given that object. Because if you get rid of that power, you get rid of the object that feeds your fear of what that object represents, you feel better about yourself at the end of the day. I've gotten rid of the object of my fears. I'm not taking this statue and go, hey, yeah, the people that installed them were a bunch of assholes, and we're totally going to teach our children that these statues were put up by assholes. No, you tear them down, and there's no record that they were there, So this goes back to the 500s, or 300s, when Rome was going from being a polytheistic society to a Christian state. And what do? They tore down statues. They tore down temples. The point of it was to erase the past. And people are going to say, oh, that's not the reason why we tear down statues. It's the exact reason why we tear down statues. We don't use it as a learning tool. We go, okay, let's eradicate that because that makes us uncomfortable. Well, paganism made Christians uncomfortable and they got rid of it. But the weird thing is, some of them remained. Why? Because people hid them from Christian mobs and they buried them in the ground. And you had Vesuvius that rained down ash and smoke, and it preserved the very things that the church was trying to get rid of later on down the road. So now you have this huge balloon of statues and images. So when we talk about Marcus Aurelius and Augustus Caesar, we're talking about two people that did not have the concept of race. They said, my father hated the Gauls, or my father hated the Egyptians. No mention of race. no mention of ethnicity. It was, my father hated these people, not my father hated black people. It was, my father hated these people in this far off place because they had done something to the guy's father. Either they beat him or they enslaved him or whatever. All right, so it says here, I can't pronounce it. She's a senior majoring in public policy, pinned a co-op in the Brown Daily Herald last week that opposes removing the statues. It is ridiculous to boil down the apex of Stoic philosophy and the legacies of one of the most influential emperors to white supremacy, she said in an interview. Friday. The larger issue at stake here is an erosion of free inquiry that doesn't conform to a leftist agenda, she said. There is little space to maintain multiple perspectives. People are so afraid to speak up. I've received backlash from supporters of decolonizing at Brown. People are so afraid of being labeled a racist or an imperialist. Several others agreed. In an online response to Decolonist Manifesto, Francisco wrote, Marcus Aurelius stands for Stoicism, a beautiful and admirable philosophy. The fact that he was white, or that the people who decided the statue should be on Brown's campus were white, should be relevant. I understand and sympathize with DAB's goals, but not everything boils down to race, Eurocentrism, colonization, or imperialism. The ruckus arose when Brown's public artwork group proposed restoring and relocating the statue of Augustus and moving it to the quiet green near the slavery memorial. Time has not been kind to Augustus. His left arm is missing, a sheaf of yellow paper has been jammed into his right hand, and a bronze minuscule has faded to a sickly green. This guy who chairs the art committee said that the upsides of this controversy is that it has sparked enormous interest in public art at Brown, but he doesn't think one type of art should be negated in favor of another. Our take is that we can only learn from things that are there, he said Thursday. We are already in the process of commissioning more African artists and Native artists. We can create an even richer landscape by adding these layers of context. Perhaps the statue of Augustus, with the proximity to the slavery memorial, could spark a conversation between the two poles of Brown history, he said. I personally feel the debate about public art will be richer and more fruitful if the statues remain and we can talk about them. All right. So I agree with him. I do agree with him. But as I said, just because you don't like something doesn't mean that you cannot turn into a talking point. But also, I think there needs to be a discussion about statues that appear to be white, but in fact were painted. In fact, there is overwhelming evidence that a lot of these statues that appear to be white happen to be painted. And it was painted to show the diverse culture that the Romans embodied. Not exactly willfully, but embodied it. So it kind of really makes me shake my head when you have people that say these statues represent white supremacy. No, they don't. They represent two of the greatest emperors that ever sat on the throne of Rome. These men shaped Rome into what it became. And when you go and you remove it thinking that, oh, magically, all this racism and homophobia and xenophobia and transphobia and all this stuff is magically going to go away, you fool yourself into actually believing that. It's not magically going to go away. You're talking about over 400 years of institutionalized racism. It's going to take that long to get rid of it. Taking down statues, well, it feels great to topple something that a bunch of idiots put up. It doesn't erase the racism. It doesn't. it makes it more prevalent. It makes it more acceptable later on down the road because you forget the lessons that were learned and you repeat the same bullshit. And then you have to do it all over again. And then something happens and then do it all over again. People are going to be mad at art and want it down, but we need to say, okay, you think that these statues represent white supremacy because they're white. I tell you what, let me show you the same exact statue painted, and let's see what happens. But yeah, I don't really seem to understand this hatred for Augustus Caesar and Marcus Aurelius. And here's another prime example, going into the heathen thing. There was a statue of Leif Erikson. So he was a Christian who was supposed to go, I think, to Iceland to bring Christianity to the Icelandic people. He ends up landing in America. So to honor Leif Erikson and his contribution to the discovery of America, even though people had forgotten about it, they made a statue of him. Well, this statue became a focal point of racist assholes. So what does a bunch of people do? They link Leif Erikson, who, first of all, discovered America, did not bring back slaves, didn't kill the native population with disease and whatever, and they topple his statue into a river. It was a boathouse. It's up against a boathouse. Okay, I don't quite understand. What point did this prove? Oh, I forgot. You're probably labeling Leif Erikson as a white supremacist because nobody in your fucking school system teaches you anything. Nothing about Leif Erikson. When I was in high school, I never was taught about Leif Erikson. Not once was I ever heard of Leif Erikson. The only time that I learned anything about Leif Erikson was when I was learning to be a heathen. That is the first time I ever heard of Leif Erikson and Eric the Red. Or the Scandinavian queen that got slapped across the face and called a heathen bitch. They're not taught in school. But Christopher Columbus is taught in school. And in all honesty, I really am not sorry that his statues are being torn down because he didn't discover America. So why is his fucking statue in America? Why don't you put his statue in fucking Spain? So, yeah. That is my gripe. And of course, let's not forget abolitionist statues are being torn down. What the fuck? They fought against fucking slavery. And you're tearing their statue down. Oh, I forgot. Because they're white. And then they defaced a black memorial to soldiers of the Civil War. I really just wonder what is going on with our educational system, where we're not taught about these people that were instrumental in our evolution as a group of people. I don't get it. And I don't think I will. But I'm glad that Brown University is not removing the statues. These are not symbols of white supremacy. These are statues of two emperors who were the greatest. And they should be remembered. They should be remembered through art. They should be taught in schools, like Leif Erikson should be taught in schools, and Eric the Red should be taught in schools. But yeah. So our educational system really needs to be reformed to include these people that were great men and women and women. We can't forget the woman that got bitch slapped. But yeah. So I'm going to see you guys around. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Sorry about the profanity and everything, but this just really fucking pissed me off. So I'll see you guys around. Bye. But this just really fucking pissed me off. So I'll see you guys around. Bye.